So Rakosi, Myrtle Point Police Department, president from 2016 to 2017. Simply the time commitment is a big challenge. Fortunately, as you start up the chairs, the time commitment isn't horrible yet at the secretary treasurer position, and as you move upwards, it becomes more and more and more. The one thing that I've noticed post-presidency is now I can decide and carefully weigh my various commitments one to another on an equal footing, where once I was in the chairs, everything about the association had to come first, and my entire life and my other professional commitments had to kind of work themselves around that. That's perfectly fine, that's what I wanted to do, but that's one of the things that you have to know going in, that ultimately this commitment is a big one and you have to make it knowingly. And the last thing I will say is, while it seems like a daunting commitment to commit for the 5 years to do this, those 5 years go screaming by. They really, really do. Especially the year of your presidency, it is so hectic and goes by so quickly. At the end, you're sitting going, okay, I didn't get to do this, and this. So I would suggest that you find a passion, find a singular thing that you want to make happen and work towards that. Because if you have any notions that you're going to do multiple things, you're doomed for failure. So yes, I hope at some point somebody beats my record of being the president from the smallest agency. What I found, one of the reasons why, well, my belief is if you're going to join an organization, you need to be a part of that organization. To join just to say I'm a member and never do anything with it, I think is a colossal waste of time for everyone. That said, I felt very strongly that I wanted to make it through the presidency so that I could be essentially a voice for smaller agencies. If you take the list of cities of the state of Oregon, smallest to largest, my little town of Myrtle Point unbelievably sits almost dead center. If you take the agencies from largest to smallest, once again, unbelievably, I'm almost dead center. So for being the smallest city ever to have a president, that means everybody less than me, half of our association, is not being represented. So I felt very strongly that I wanted to be at least the voice for us smaller agencies. The difficulty with that is, frankly, the time commitment. Now, I'm very fortunate that I have an agency that can run itself without my being there all the time. It wasn't always that way, and I get that asked from a lot of various of my peers, where, how is it that you can spend this much time, Well, it's because I have an agency that can run itself, and without me there, things don't come to a screeching halt. This kind of goes back to what we teach in the Marine Corps as far as leadership is concerned. Your job as a leader is to put yourself out of a job. If the world comes to a screeching halt because you're not there, you've done a huge disservice to everyone. If you're not there, it continues on, life is good. It might be a little bit different than if you were there, but nonetheless. What you're also doing by causing an environment where that can happen is you're grooming future leaders. I'm fortunate, even out of my tiny agency, that I've had at least one of mine become chief someplace else. In large agencies, that's pretty commonplace. In one my size, pretty rare. Not necessarily specifically testifying on behalf of OACP. I was at that time testifying on behalf of the SIEC, where I was the chair for a bunch of years. But we were testifying in front of the legislature, and they're throwing out dollar amounts that like they really meant nothing. And one of the comments when it became my time to speak is, okay, you all are throwing these numbers around like they mean nothing. But $10,000, while a paltry sum to many places, to me is a substantial bite out of my budget. So when you say, oh yeah, it's only $10,000, and I will look at you and say, oh yeah, that's only about however many percent of one of my officers. And so I can't take hits like that. That's especially where I think it's important that our small agencies get heard. Ultimately, this has to be for the greater good of policing in general and police chiefs specifically, so that we can serve our populace more effectively and protect them from some of the lunacy, quite frankly, that comes out of the legislature. You know, there's not a legislator, and one of the things I've come to learn, especially having gone through the chairs, that there's not a politician. There may be the occasional politician, but 99% of the politicians do not get into politics with the notion that they want to screw up the world. But the way they want to change the world may not be founded in a reality or be the sense of community that we understand. They see a specific issue that, for whatever reason, gets underneath their skin, and all of a sudden they're carrying a torch for something that is completely counterproductive in the broad sense. It might fix this one teeny tiny little niche, but we cannot be looking at these little niches. We have to be able to look at the broader sense. And I think our association, especially because of the vast viewpoints within it, are able to reasonably and intelligently say, here are the issues, this is why you don't want to do that, or this is why you do want to do that, and at least be a knowledgeable sounding board for our legislators. But where truly the benefit for the Chiefs Association exists is us in numbers, and being able to say, as a group, as law enforcement heads, that this is how we believe we need to be doing these things within our laws. That's where the true benefit is. My platform for my presidency was fit to lead. Whether we want to believe it or not, this is still a very physically demanding job. Because of the time commitments, because of the frequently hectic nature of our jobs, we tend to eat poorly, we tend to not exercise, we tend to do all kinds of things that are counterproductive to the fact that we are, at the end of the day, in a physically demanding profession. As we progress through the ranks, we get worse about that. Your job as a police officer, as a police chief, will eventually end. But if you're not in any shape to continue on post-career, who have you done any good to? Certainly not your family, certainly not to yourself. When I'm done with this, I hope to still be in the same kind of shape as I am today. And I want to be able to enjoy life once I'm done. Words of encouragement to somebody trying to come into law enforcement. None of this is personal. I applaud you for wanting to come into this profession. I have honestly and said for years, I believe it's a calling. I don't believe it's a profession. It's one that chooses you, not you that. So if you think, oh, maybe I'll try this out and see if I like it or not, yeah, don't bother. Because there are so many things that you won't like that you guaranteed you won't last. If you think that, if you're one that needs constant praise and constant accolades, don't. Because this is, again, one of those very thankless jobs. Every once in a great while, somebody will thank you, and you'll be sitting there going, "Holy cow! Wow!" But it's not about that. It's about trying to make your community, your little niche of the world, a better place to be in. To try to allow other people to live happy, productive lives. But none of this is personal. And as you progress through the ranks, understand that it can't be about you. And I've said for years, the day I forget that I'm a police officer first is the day I need to quit. If I'm unwilling to take a call, it's one of those that sometimes, because of the various other things that we have to do, I won't be able to take a call because some of my other commitments. But the day I'm unwilling to take a call for service is the day I need to quit. My job, first and foremost, is that of a police officer. I happen to be in charge of other police officers, but when it comes down to it, that's the primary job. That's what we all have to do. And if you think progressing through the ranks, progressing through the chairs, any of that stuff should bring you any specific other perks or accolades, don't bother. Obviously, first, if I didn't put Ann first, she would probably kill me, my wife Ann. Remember that all of the time commitments that you have, not only in the association, but especially going through the officer chairs, is also a huge time commitment for your families. But my other one is to you, Marie. We all certainly recognize how far and how much Kevin does for our association, but and as I said on my out, you had picked up for Carlin when I first went into the chairs, and we both learned together what we had to be doing. For years and years and years, Carlin shepherded all of us baby officers through the chairs. And all of a sudden, you and I had to learn together what each of one of those things meant. So, absolutely, without you, none of this would have happened.